Hello again, everyone. I'm here today with some swatching of some new Daniel Smith colors that I purchased. So the top row here is colors that I purchased from a recent sale at Jerry's Artorama. Daniel Smith watercolors rarely go on sale, so when they do, I usually get a few colors that are on my list. These four are all from the Primatech line, which are all genuine minerals. And these I purchased from a, what was the name of it? Oh, it's called Mercari. And I was able to get all four of these tubes for a steal. Like seriously, like four tubes for the price of not even two of them. So it's also good to check resale sites and that sort of stuff to find good deals on watercolor. And these are all generally fairly expensive colors, so I was really happy to get them because some of these Primatech line colors are was it grade 4? Series 4. So they're like the most expensive ones in the line. So I've already developed these little swatch cards here, and I will put a link below to the video where I talk about my two travelers notebooks from Chic Sparrow, where I put all of my watercolor swatches, and that will give you the details of how I make these and what the tools are involved. So for today, I'm going to be using that same brush that I discussed in that video, this number 5 Da Vinci Cosmotop Spin. So, and then off the screen I have some water. And what I also have is I have a little Chic Sparrow bag full of watercolor pans. So this is where I keep my extra pans. So I'm going to keep this sort of off to the side, and for each color I'm going to have one available, because if I get any overflow when I open it up, I'll be able to put it in the pan, and that way I can save it. And what I also want to do, let's see, where would that be? I am going to use, if I do end up with any watercolor inside the pan there, I am going to label it with the Sharpie so that I know what it is later, because I have definitely put stuff in pans and then I'm trying to figure out what color it is that I put in there. So let's go ahead and start in order. I'm going to put these off to the side for the time being, and then I'm going to move these down here, and we're going to start with Naples Yellow. And so whenever I open it over the pan, because they don't always, okay, this is actually going to be a cooperative one, so that's good. So when I do swatches right out of the tube, I try to be a little bit careful because I don't want to get too much pigment basically. So I just lightly wet my brush so that it's almost dry, and then I just touch a little bit here, because you need very, very little, although I may need more than that this time. And I find that it's actually a little bit more helpful for the mass tone piece, because basically what you're trying to get from mass tone is the tone that you would get without it being very watered down. So if you're getting it right out of the tube, you are indeed getting that. Okay. But generally I don't like to paint with watercolors right out of the tube. I do like to dry them first. Okay, so there's our mass tone. And I'm going to add a little bit more water. And so basically I'm just using the color that's in the cap here. And Naples Yellow is a little bit different than some of the colors I normally use because it does have white in it. But it does have a really nice glow to it, probably because of the white. And it's semi-transparent, but it's a really pretty color. And again, I'm just diluting a little bit more each time with the swatch here. And I have a bunch of other swatches here on YouTube, swatch videos. So I encourage you to go look at those if you'd like to see some others that might give you a little bit more info on how I'm doing those swatches. Okay, so let's close that up. That was minimal mess. Ooh, let's see if the others can do that for us as well. So the Naples Yellow, and generally I end up with a little bit more of an uneven swatch when I'm doing it right out of the tube, but this still, I mean, it's still an accurate representation. So again, this is Naples Yellow from Daniel Smith, and it is PW4, PY97, and PR101. So I'm going to put that off to the side. I'll show those all again at the end. And then we're going to go with Meridian. So Meridian is a color that I have been toying with the idea of replacing my phthalo green in my main palette with this color. Oh, again, they're being so nice and cooperative. Well, I'm not going to jinx it. So I wanted to possibly replace, oh, it's coming out a little bit. I wanted to possibly replace my phthalo green because the phthalo green is just super concentrated and it's a little bit unnatural. I mean, it's just for mixes really. But this one is a similar tone but is granulating. And you all know how much I love granulating if you've been watching my channel for any length of time. Okay, let me get a little more water there. And you should be able to see that fairly well when we get to the watered out portion. I'm going to go ahead and close this so it doesn't try to escape any more than it has already. And like I said, towards the end I will show you a close-up of each of these. And now, so this is Meridian from Daniel Smith. These are all Daniel Smith. I'll just stop saying that. So this is Meridian and it's PG18. And then the next one we have is Lunar Violet. And I wanted to get Lunar Violet because I have a lot of the other lunar colors, and I kind of wanted to see if I could make a palette with just lunar colors. I thought that might be fun. Oops. Let's see. Yay! Sometimes if it's coming out at the top, you can push on the sides of the container a little bit and get it to go back down. And I was successful with that this time. I'm not always successful with that. And one of the reasons why I rarely paint with watercolor right out of the tube is you're really prone to using way too much pigment and using up more paint than you need to. You're still going to get a lot of pigment load in the dried out paints. It's going to save your paint. And it's also not going to look a little gloppy. Like sometimes these samples look a little gloppy when they're with the tube paint. So it's kind of a, how much water do I really need to use question. Okay. And again, I'm going to put that lid on. So proud of these watercolors today. They are really behaving themselves. And I've found too that certain colors are a little more unruly than others. So there, that's the Lunar Violet, PV15 and PBK11. So that has a black in it, which is the lunar black, I believe. Okay. And the next one is Dyke Brown, and this is PBR7. And I've been wanting to try this. Oh, and that one is gonna, okay, so I am gonna have to put that in the pan. So I'm gonna go ahead and, let's see. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. Usually I have a little, oops, I'm making a mess now. Usually I have a little palette knife where I can kind of get up into the cap there and get some excess, and this is kind of a sticky color too. Okay, so now we have that there, and I'm going to wipe off that little spot that got on my tube so that I don't get it everywhere. So what was I saying? Dyke Brown. So I wanted to use the Dyke Brown as sort of a quicker way to get to a really dark color in my palette, because it is so dark, it's even darker than a raw umber. It's sort of a quickie way to get to black if you want to get to black. And you can also make some really nice dark mixes with other colors. Liz Steele, who I follow, and she has a lot of really great watercolor classes and sketching classes. She uses this color in her everyday palette, or at least the last time I checked in on what her palette was, she's been using this one. And again, it's a little tricky because you don't want to, and this is a super sticky watercolor, you don't want to use too much pigment. So that's why I'm being a little hesitant when I go in there the first time, or the second time, or the third time. Okay. It's interesting, this color doesn't have as much movement as some of the other colors. So again, this is PBR7. Okay. I'm going to put that up here. So that is it for the non-Primatech colors. And I'm actually going to label this one. I'll show you how I do that. So I use this Sharpie Ultra Fine Retractable Permanent Pen. This is the permanent pen. So I'm just going to put DS, Van Dyke, Brown. And that way I'll remember what is in that little pan. Okay. So here are those 4 colors: Naples Yellow, Meridian, Lunar Violet, and Van Dyke Brown. Okay. And then we're going to start with these Primatech colors. I'm going to get another pan to have handy in case that same thing happens again. So we're going to start with the, move these out of the way here. We're going to start with the Bronzeite Genuine. Oh, another well-behaved paint. Excellent. And you'll notice that sometimes they'll kind of slowly seep out the top, and it's just like, ooh, how long can I go without that becoming a problem? Because this one is definitely starting to seep up there. And one thing you could get too, oh sorry, my hand is in the way. So one thing that you can also get when you use too much paint, here I'm going to put some paint off to the side so I can close this up. One thing that you might get when you use too much paint is your paint will start to look glossy. And that's just really because you're using too much paint. And that'll happen with the tubes and with the pans if you use too much paint, too much pigment. Okay, I left a little over here on the side to do this one. And usually if not always, the Primatech colors are granulating. So sometimes it's a little harder to control them. All right, and that's the Bronzeite Genuine. Okay, I'm going to put that to the side as well. Then we're going to go on to Red Fuchsia Genuine. Okay, let's see. Oh, no, that one is not going to cooperate. I don't know if you could see that, but sometimes you can almost feel it when you're taking the cap off. Like it will just feel like it's gonna blow. Okay. And this one almost looks sparkly in the pan. And there are colors that do have a bit of sparkle in them in the Primatech line, like the Amethyst Genuine has a little bit of sparkle to it, and it's really quite pretty. Okay. I think that's about as dark as it's going to get up there, actually. And this, I think, would actually be a great color for rocks here in Colorado, because most of them tend to skew red. So I could totally see adding this to my plein air palette that I use here in Colorado. Okay, so that's the red Fuchsia Genuine. And all of these genuine pigments, they don't have pigment numbers because they're just made out of crushed rock, essentially. So that's all you're getting in there. Okay, and then let me label this one again before I forget. Daniel Smith, red. Okay. Actually, I have enough room to write the whole name. Okay. And then next, okay, so I need to get another pan out ready, just in case. So this next one is Kyanite Genuine. So that one, I'm actually gonna, oh, can we save it? Can we save it? Oh, yeah, okay. It's not that I don't want these in a half pan, it's just that I don't want to put them in a half pan until I know what I'm going to be doing with it. And this is a lovely, lovely color. It's almost like a dark bluish gray, almost like a Payne's gray. It's beautiful. I definitely think we can go darker with that in the mass tone. Because we also want a representation of what it's going to look like at its most saturated. And that's essentially what the mass tone is. Okay. And that's really lovely diluted out as well. But then I'm kind of a sucker for muted blues. Okay. And we're going to go on to the last one for this video, the Blue Apatite Genuine. Let's see, we've only had 2 overflows. Let's see. Oh, okay. I think we can probably get a dollop of that and move that aside like we did with the last one. Okay. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to put that last pan back in my little container there. And this is pretty similar to the last one, but it's a little more greenish in color. As you'll see, I pretty much got a big glob there of the paint. sure I can get all of that I put aside. These are pretty. Okay. I'm gonna try and even that out a little bit, add a little more dark here if I can. Don't want to mess with it too much because then it might start getting a little weird. Again, it's much harder to regulate with the paint right out of the tube. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's see. So we had Naples Yellow, I think these are all dry now, Meridian, Lunar Violet, Dyke Brown, Bronzeite Genuine. You can definitely tell there's a little bit of, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of sparkle in that Bronzeite Genuine. Kind of hard to tell on the camera, that might not have come off. And then, oh, there's definitely some sparkle in, yeah, you can see that, that's super sparkly. Red Fuchsia Genuine. Okay. And then there is the Kyanite Genuine, which I think also has a little bit of sparkle. Pretty. And then this last one, oops. Had a little accident with one of my watercolor pans there. So this last one is the Genuine Blue Apatite. All right, that one still needs to dry a little bit. So there we go. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to like and or subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.